And that is exactly what I did. So this book was actually a clumsy spiral bind manual that I just gave to students because I quite frankly, I couldn't answer everyone's questions. They go, Evette, what's this? What's this? What's that? I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. I can't answer all these people. And I feel such an obligation to answer because I want to serve. I want to help. I want to give people the information that they need to resolve unresolved challenges in their life. So I ended up writing the book, and it just went viral again when I started to sell it. And that's how this book was birthed, and that's how I got into this industry. Completely no idea of this beautiful vast pool of information in the quantum field. It was just like this, ready for me to become in alignment with it so that I could draw all that information from that. So it was very, very unexpected. If you had to ask me 14 years ago, what would you be doing today? If you told me I would be where I am today, I would probably have a meltdown.
What an amazing story. And that is volume 1.
Yeah.
So yeah. I am sure that in the field somewhere, if you haven't started already, you have volume 2 that must be coming.
She's got another book as well. But
yeah.
That's a good question. Go ahead.
No, I have 6 books.
Yes,
wow.
6. We've only said anything about 2. So is there a follow-on to the big one?
Yes, there is. So I have volume 2, and that's the metaphysical anatomy technique. So that's a really easy to follow healing technique that you can use this book to get the information. What is the stress behind what's happening in your body that you're not consciously aware of? And then going through volume 2, and you can follow the technique there to start to resolve the challenge that you have. And I also have an online guided healing session that's in volume 1 that you can also go through and follow to start to resolve the conscious and subconscious blocks that you have in your body.
Tell us some stories about, especially in the beginning, as well as when you started seeing perhaps results, and then I know you have a lot of students, and I know there's those who have really benefited.
Absolutely. So one thing that I've learned with metaphysical anatomy is that, and the process itself, and what people love about it, is that you don't need to know the root cause of your trauma to resolve it. You don't have to remember specific memories. And the best of all is that you don't have to relive it. And so I have attracted quite a wide variety of audiences, from specialists to people who just wants to improve their quality of life. And I just want to tap quickly there on why we don't relive trauma. And that's because of neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. These aspects are, our focus is so much on the positive of it. Like, let's retrain our mind, let's build new neural pathways, let's change pathways. But what people don't always understand is that it takes a certain level of stress to be released and to release the correct chemical in order for neurogenesis and neuroplasticity to take place, right? That's when your neural pathway starts to grow, and when some of them starts to change with new information flowing through them. That when you do relive trauma, sometimes if the practitioner cannot take the person out of it correctly, you can actually re-traumatize someone, which means that you're layering in the trauma, or you actually can build new neural pathways based on the trauma that was just experienced. So you leave the person actually in a worse space than what they were originally. So because this is trauma work, I try to stay away from it as far as possible, because trauma is trauma. Sometimes it's quite severe. Sometimes it can be something from just a phobia. But the way that we experience and interpret trauma is different for all of us because of different levels of resilience. So that is a place sometimes where we tend to underestimate how severe certain things can be, and for other people as well, when people are being led through these processes. And so that's where I've had people coming to me, as you asked, so who are these people that's coming to me? These are the people that have had bad experiences. These are the people that are just completely stuck, and they've exhausted so much and they don't know which way to go anymore. And first of all, what I've learned with almost half of my clients is that most of the time they try to heal something that never happened. And how that happens is that by the time you've expressed a memory more than 5 times, you've lost 50% of its validity. That's just how the subconscious mind works. So at the end of the day, when you've told your story more than 10, 20, 30 times, and you keep going to practitioner, and you keep telling a story, or you go to speech therapies, you can see where the flaw can come in, right? So, and this is an actual fact. This is not something that I'm just observing in my clients. So that's why we try to steer away from, working with too many specific memories. And what is valid is how you feel. That is not, there's no confusion there. When you're upset, you know that you're upset. When you're happy, you know that you're happy, right? So whatever emotion it is that you're feeling, that we know is an absolute fact for you in the present moment, in the here and now. Now, here's the beauty of when people come to me is that when we tap into the issues or challenges that they're feeling, it triggers the emotional memory held in the emotional body, also called the meta body, and the frequency that is there. The body has its own frequency, and certain emotions have their own frequencies. And when certain negative emotions are concentrated on too much, it causes a disruption in the electrical flow in the body. And when that electrical flow in the body continues to stay imbalanced, that's when it can cause a physical reaction in the physical energetic body. And that's when we have ailments, meaning when certain components in the body that's meant to work in harmony stops working in harmony. But the reason for that is because of emotions, because I learned that emotions are connected to specific parts in the body, and we share that collectively. On a blueprint, we share that collectively. So as an example, I know you've been waiting for this, I'm building up to it. I once, for example, had a guy that worked in the pharmaceutical. So he sits there in my class. I'll never forget this. This was hilarious. It's in Sydney. And he's like, Evette, I really like you. You seem like a really good person. But, this is my background and I'm not convinced. Because, people sometimes have to believe in the process in order for it to work, right? So where does that leave me? And I said, what is your issue? He's like, well, I have chronic back pain, lower back for 13 years. It's a, slip disc. It's fused already, and I'm on disability leave, so I can only work online for the companies that I work for. So it was like half. And I'm like, come here, come sit here. It was a live demonstration. And so this was the perfect example for me, because it was great for me to show people that people don't have to believe in you or what you do in order for it to work. You have to believe in it, because you are the driver of the change. You are the one that sparks the change within the other person. People can only be raised up to the level that you are working from. So if you think I can't do it well perfect, yeah, you cannot. You cannot heal that person. You cannot work with them. Okay, there you are. That's exactly where you need to be then. So, and I said to him, no, let's just have a chat. Let's pretend we're going to have fun. And I find that this works really well. Pretend. Pretend that your body can speak. Pretend that there is now a voice. Pretend that we can see what the issue is. Because when we do that, now we're playful, like children again. Have you noticed how much more psychic children are than adults? There's a reason for that. Because they pretend, they play, there's no limitations. Have fun with it. And so we need to learn how to have fun with this again, right? So because when we have fun, we don't have a fear of making a mistake, because it's a game, we pretend. So, and 10 minutes later, we found what the issue was. I don't want to say it go too private, but we found what the family discord was that was happening in his life, and also a few years back, and how what was happening currently in his life is basically a full circle of a pattern that happened far back between this person and his parents. And so we got the pain down to 1 out of 10. And that's one thing with when you work with spinal pain, you should never, ever let it go to a 0. Reason why is that person can get up and walk away, and they can go, oh, well, I feel great now. I can bench press 100 kilograms again. I can pick up suitcases again. Well, no, the body's still healing. Use that 1 out of 10 to just show you, hang on, I still have a slight limitation. I need to take it easy. My body's healing, because we do have a 7-day integration period. Just because everyone's different. Some people are instant, some people need 7 days. And so 7 days later, I never heard back from him. And I thought, he's probably just doing okay. I have no idea, but life went on. So I went back to Sydney 3 months later to teach another event. And he came with this massive bouquet of flowers. And he said, I have to thank you. This gave me my life back. I fired my chiropractor. I don't have to be on disability leave anymore. I can clean my own house. I love going to the gym. I can walk again. It's all gone. I'm doing really well. So that's a great example of something that I have. As people would think of the more severe challenges, I had a lady who didn't speak English, and the translator was the son-in-law. Sadly, I realized that the son-in-law was part of the problem as to why she had lower back pain. And I said, and I realized, and I thought, oh dear, now what? Now what? My voice is part of the problem. How do we do this? And this challenged me. This is what made me realize how far this technique can be stretched. And I said to him, listen, why don't you just sit there, you relax, because I could feel her sending knives at him. I'm just like, okay, let's bring the knives back. Let's just not do this. And I said to her, just take a nice deep breath. Translate to her to just meditate, just be. And then I said, I'm going to just go quiet and I'm going to do the healing for you. And she laughed at me. She translated to him. She said, is this a joke? And I said, we'll see after 20 minutes whether we're going to be laughing or whether you're going to chase me out of the house. I have no idea what's going to happen, because I didn't know. I had no idea. And I really felt like I was in the deep end of the swimming pool here. And I went quiet and I just stayed with the process. 20 minutes later, I said to her, stand up. And she said, I cannot stand up without help. And I said to the translator, I said, don't touch her. I said, get up on your own. And at this point, I had enough of her attitude, because she was really mean, like really, really mean. And I've had enough. And I said, get up. And so she got up and she just put her hand on her back, waiting for the pain to come. And there was no pain. And she looked at me, and I don't know what she said, but she muffled something and she walked to the kitchen, and that was the end of the session. So, you know, I've worked with people who just completely would fight me, who didn't believe in it. And I've had people who said, yes, I believe. Now, to what extent do people get better? I have come to learn that there are subconscious connections that they also have to certain things in their life that's working for them in certain ways that they're not ready to let go of. So we asked the $1 million question. What in your life would change that you're not ready to change if we healed this today? The answer to that is your original session from what you thought you needed to do, if you really want to get better. Because we don't always see the hidden benefits. We don't always see the hidden self-sabotage or the secondary gains. I once had the best session ever where, not the best, but my best example, I had a lady who had cancer, but it wasn't severe yet. And the daughter of the mother asked me to go. And I sat there and I said to her, let's start. And she said, Evette, please don't. Let's just talk. Let's just have a conversation. I said, why? She said, you know what? I've never seen my grandchildren as much as I do right now since I've had the cancer. And I'd rather have it and see my daughter and my grandchildren. Please don't do anything. Let's just talk. Who am I to argue? You know, this is where you get in a situation as a practitioner. Where do it stretch to the point where I violate her privacy and speak to the daughter about it? And I said to her, listen, whenever you're ready, I'm happy to sit down and do a collective session with you and the daughter, and to bring you all together and see why is the distance perhaps there, because that's the main problem here. And then we can address the cancer. And she said, that's a great idea. I'm happy with that. So that's a really great place, for example, to leave something, but you can't force someone. I did try to work on her a little bit for 10 minutes in conversation, meaning try to convince her. I tried. I really did. But I got to a point where I could see it's time now to let it go and just to respect her wishes. And there are people like that where you have to respect their wishes. I've had a situation where I had a guy that was riddled with cancer and glandular cancer. They cut out as much as they could. Cancer spread into his blood and worked on him for 3 hours. Long story short, a week later, completely cleared. But then a week after that, he died from emphysema. And where did his time go?
You're not the first. You're not the first one, especially on this show and people I know, to address that issue. This is a big one. You ask a very, very important question. You know, is that as a healer or a doctor or whatever, at what point do you pursue it and change their lives more than they want to? So this is more prevalent than I'm just letting the members know than people think.
Yes, that secondary gain of your illness is the very thing that stops you from getting better.
And we have personal friends who have been cured of one thing only immediately to have something else that took their lives.
Yes.
So what you just said, we've experienced as well.
Yeah. So how do you help people get in touch with those feelings? Because you began with what I think is very common and prevalent, is that we numb out our feelings and our emotions.
Yeah. So this is the interesting part. And I have to share this one case with you quickly because I know you love cases. And then I'm going to answer your questions through this case. So I had a 19-year-old young man coming to me, and he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And he said, I'm getting worse and I'm getting worse. And the more I talked to him, I realized this guy doesn't have schizophrenia, but I'm not a qualified practitioner. I can diagnose. And I said to him, please let go of the psychiatrist that you have and get a new one immediately. And I want you to be reassessed again, because what you have is dissociative disorder. I'm convinced this is what you have. And for 20 minutes, I told him exactly what you should tell to the psychiatrist. And please just brainstorm this idea and let's see what comes from this. I can't do a healing on you because you need to check this with the psychiatrist first. And so he did. And he came back to me a few days later and he said, your diagnosis was correct. And so what's happened with this boy was to the extreme, where we disassociate so much, we become so numb that we can't feel what's common sense, common logic within us. And that's why certain behavioral patterns or ways of communicating and things that we do can seem a little bit abrupt or weird or not necessarily streamlined. And because we're trying to cope from an intellectual perspective, which the emotional side of that is missing, it's absent. And so, of course, it's going to be harder to have that emotional connection and to have that compassionate connection where there's more a sense of understanding, where intellectual understanding is a little bit more cold, it's a little bit more apathetic. So the thing with numbness is, and here also, I promise you this simple question. Again, what would you have to feel if I took this numbness away from you right now that you don't want to feel in your life? And yes, the person might get frustrated because now they're breaking through barriers. But if you are patient, you will get an answer. I promise you that 100% every single time. And the person will say, oh, this is from, I have to deal with my partner that's, not in alignment with me anymore, or I have to deal with this person at work, or I have to deal with this. I have to deal with a certain feeling that normally comes up and I don't know how to deal with that, or it's anxiety, or it's this, or it's that. That person will give you an answer. They don't have amnesia to that extent. They will have an answer for you. Now, numbness is what's medically speaking not an instinctive reaction, but I've been saying for years, it's one of 7 instinctive reactions that we work with in MAT, in Metaphysical Anatomy Technique. And numbness is one of them. When we refer to numbness, it's emotional numbness. Disassociating is more intellectual disassociating. You can feel your feelings, but you see and you talk to someone and you just see their mouth moving and you're not taking in what they're saying. Like you're in like this little glass bubble around your head. That's basically the best way to explain it. But numbness is where you can take in the information, but you emotionally cannot read the information. So you intellectually understand it. And that, of course, is the best way to protect ourselves. But the reason why we do that is because we formed a negative association with the physical body. Sadly so, because the body, the very vessel that's responsible for helping you to fulfill your life purpose, to fulfill your destiny, to create your goals and your dreams, the very thing that is meant to help you, you're disconnecting from because it's meant here to serve you. If you're feeling pain, it means that the body is feeling pain. But now you're punishing the body subconsciously by disconnecting from it because you don't want to feel what it's trying to tell you, saying, I need us to deal with this, please, because I don't have the resources to cope with this anymore. I need you to find a solution, please. That's what it's doing. It doesn't have the capacity. If it did, it would have done it. Awesome. The body's designed to keep you alive. It's designed, that's the only job.
I would love just a message. First of all, we're almost out of time. We're going to go to your website next. I want to tell the listeners and the viewers and all like that, get a replay and see this again. Just wind to her part and see it again because there's so much information here that she's covered that is gold. And so
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's one last lingering thought that you'd like to leave for our viewers?
And you have a special too, I think.
Oh, yes. The last thought that I would love to leave for people here is that we often think that we cannot heal or change certain things because we're meant to complete certain trauma cycles or karmic cycles. Well, guys, listen, I have news for you. Are you ready? If you came into this life and you have all these beautiful gifts to change your life like that, then why is it there if you're meant to have certain issues and challenges in your life, meaning with the end result to suffer? That doesn't exist. At the end of the day, in my opinion, it's a choice how you choose to go down your path. And I want you to feel empowered right now that you have a choice. You absolutely have a choice. You're not changing your karma. It's your right to speed up a certain experience. Because through awareness, you can create anything. Awareness of a problem is a problem I have solved. The other 50% is now dive into your toolbox and start to resolve what it is that you became aware of. Because that's why you were blessed with that awareness, is to do something about it. It's not just there for the sake of being there. So that's your crossroad where you are finding yourselves right now.
Now, thank you for that, Evette. And I want to let people know that you are offering a special 50% off the How to Master Your Anxiety workshop.
Members to Healing Wednesdays and the Circle of 12. I'm Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monica Morani.
Healing Wednesdays, this is the first time you have been here, and there are many who are coming in all the time. Every single week of the year, we come together with special guests, questions and answers, discussions, meditations, and channeling with Monica and myself. So this is a special time for me. Also, this is a members meeting. It's a little different because as members, you get really cool stuff.
Absolutely. I think you do. You have an audio of the show as well, because some of you are in remote areas and it's very difficult to play the video. But at least if you're in that area, you can just listen. We have the audio only file. We also have an index so that you can go in and have a look at what was said on what date and what was the title of the Kryon channel, what was the description in that channel, what was the audience like in the Circle of 12, what questions did we answer. All of that is available to you in the index. We also have the replays of every Healing Wednesday we have ever done. That is all yours. So what a deal. I think that's so great.
And you know, those replays are forever. I mean, as long as you're a member, you get them, and they grow and grow and grow. So there's no limit to the number of times you can see them or see portions of them. What I like about replays also is, as I recall, there is also a breakdown in your portal of the timing of the shows. And there's a generic timing of the shows we have. So if you've only been able to watch part of it, you can race to the next section and all, or just the channels or just the guests or whatever. We try to make it as complete as we can. So all of that said, welcome.
Yes, indeed.
We have questions and answers, and we're taking them from you. There's a place on your on the site, on your portal, and also you can just not Google it. You can't do that, but you can type it in kryonmasters.com/questions, lowercase. KryonMasters.com, questions, where you can leave questions. Now, we have a couple of rules for the questions. They're not hard.
Absolutely. We really love it when you can ask a question that others may be interested in or others will benefit from. We discourage personal questions because we want to make it accessible for everyone to benefit from your question. And we do ask, make them concise. Get to the point.
Get to the point.
Don't just write a story and leave us guessing what is the question.
Right. And that's the other thing. Don't write a story.
Write a question.
It's just hard to read. If we see paragraphs and paragraphs, we probably will ask, is there a question in there someplace? So make it concise if you can. It helps get your question posted and answered. How
Absolutely. So you can submit your question in your portal or, again, KryonMasters.com/questions. So let's go to the first question. And this one comes from Angela from Belgium. Angela is asking, what is consciousness and is it located in the brain? All about consciousness, Lee.
This one is a doozy. The question is, and I want to do the best we can, Monica and I both, to answer it. Of course, we see these questions in advance, and we prepare for them the best we can, so it doesn't catch us on the fly. And what I mean by that is that if I can give you a better answer by research and going to what Kryon has said and also thinking about it, it's going to be more substantive than catching it on the fly and going, I have no idea. So indeed, we have selected these questions, and we select the hard ones. You know, Aristotle couldn't answer this. Philosophers and scientists cannot agree. What is consciousness? There are attributes of consciousness that Kryon has talked about. There is an overview that has been discussed. I would say it's, if I had just to say what it is. To me, it's sentient awareness. We are aware that we exist. And that is why this is so tough to define. But it's not, to me, the definition of what it is, it's how it operates and what is there to take a look at that's beyond what you think. If you are in a philosophy class right now and they're talking about consciousness, that's about as far as it's going to get. And that is a definition, the unknown, it's an awareness of yourself and things around you. That's about it. But there's so much more. Is it possible that consciousness is also energy? In the last decade, folks, they have absolutely proved that consciousness is energy. In fact, it must be part of physics. Those experiments, whether it's from HeartMath or Princeton or even beyond, start to show that groups of people can move things, affect things, and actually be a player in energy. I would like to give kudos to Lynn McTaggart, who is a pioneer of showing that consciousness alone in groups of people can affect things around us in other groups of people. That's just the beginning. Let me go here. Scientists, are you listening? Identical twins will have intuitive ideas hemispheres apart on the planet, thousands of miles apart, about the same thing that's happening at the same time. They'll call each other and say, "Did you feel it?" And they'll say yes. So suddenly, consciousness now is a multidimensional player. It has to be, because it's not just consciousness that's energy around you. It's consciousness that seems to be sent and received. Are you getting this? What if it's bigger than just awareness? What if your consciousness is part of even your soul? And this is where, of course, philosophers and scientists can't define it, because now we're getting into the spirituality. Kryon has said that consciousness also in other channels resides in equal parts of the triad. Now, triad he's described as brain, heart, ready, and pineal. These three also are involved in innate. Is consciousness part of innate? Yes. So it's a full body experience, perhaps even into the DNA. That is how I see consciousness. So let's review for a moment. Question, is it in the brain? No. It's full body. It has to be full body. It is not floating around etherically. It is energy. It can be focused. It can be felt. All of these things are so much bigger and grander than anything you've ever read about it.
That is a great answer, Lee. And Angela, I'm like you. I love the subject of consciousness. And, you know, lucky for us, Kryon has given a beautiful channel just on this subject. It's called The Physics of Consciousness. And you can find that both as an audio, but what I really encourage is go and have a look at the transcribed channel of The Physics of Consciousness. I'm going to give you a site where you can do that. It's going to be kryon.com/channeling. Now, channeling has 2 N's and 2 L's. So it's going to be CHANNELLING, kryon.com/channeling. You want to click on the channelings to print out from that page, because it's going to open up a whole lot of transcribed channels. Now, once a month, I will transcribe an audio, and it's in Yoda talk. So Lee will take that transcription, and then it's almost like Kryon and Lee are then re-channeling extra information. Okay, did you get that? There's extra information in those transcribed channels.
Do you want to explain Yoda talk just while we're here, so that they'll understand?
I say Yoda talk, but it is Kryon who's using words and concepts that are communicated in a non-verbal way that we get from the nuances of voice.
Right.
And when it's on paper, when it's written on paper, sometimes there's things left out.
Right.
or missing information. So that's where Lee will rechannel over it and give more information.
Kryon then expands it.
Exactly.
Anytime you've ever transcribed a speech or something like that, and you'll realize there's stuff missing here because we communicate far different in a vocal way than we do on paper. So that's why these things have to be altered, and they are, and then quite often added onto.
Yeah. So when you get to that page, scroll down. They're numbered. And you want to scroll down to number 149. That is the physics of consciousness. It was given in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia in 2014. And I want to just read a paragraph from that transcribed channel, which really speaks to me about consciousness. Here's what Kryon says in that channel. What you describe as human consciousness isn't. It's just consciousness. It only belongs to the human being because you're human and see it that way. You as a human group generate an energy of consciousness, so you call it human consciousness, but it's almost identical to the consciousness that the other planets have gone through. It's an energy that actually has substance. And here's what I love where Kryon adds into this paragraph. Would you call physics human physics? We wouldn't. So I love that Kryon puts that extra question in there for us. Now, in that same channel, Kryon also tells us that the highest kind of physics is consciousness. And it's this multi-dimensional physics that controls 3D physics. That's the power of love, benevolence, compassionate action. So I love all the information we have been given from Kryon about consciousness because we keep talking about it. But
there's even more.
Yes.
Let's just finish this. And this, I know there's only be one question here for this whole time. But it's just occurring to me, the circle of 12. And the whole idea of a healing time that we are together working with you has to do with consciousness over physics and consciousness with physics. Is it possible that your consciousness alone can affect the chemistry in your body? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes. I can't tell you how many healers are on this program talking about how you think then corrects things that have been in your subconscious. Got the word? And how you think about them then affects that which is perhaps disease, aches and pains, energy, and real healing. That is things that are there that go away. That's just one of many. But they focus truly on the effect of consciousness. So I think this is a very, very big issue. I would love to see sometime maybe we can take it apart, maybe in classes. And I would love that because I think I can start compartmentalizing all of the things that Kryon has talked about, that we have seen, and wrap it up into that which is consciousness. So it's a big question.
It's a big subject.
Yeah. I get excited about it.
I do too. So thank you, Angela, for that question. And unfortunately, we don't have time for any more questions because we really wanted to give you a complete answer for that one. But please keep submitting them to us.
Yes.
And now we're going to move into a meditation and a channel from Kryon. And really, this is nothing to do in this space. This is your space to simply disengage from everything that's been happening today. Just let it drop away from you so that you can create a quiet space just for you. And allow your breathing to slow that breath right down so that you're breathing in for maybe a count of 6. And holding your breath slightly. And then slowly breathing out for another count of 6. You may even wish to place your hand on your abdomen and feel the breath fill in to your belly. And then let it push out effortlessly. Breathing is something we do every day. But now just concentrate on that breath. And in that thinking of the breath, let's also remind ourselves that this breath that we give out is going to the plants on the planet. And that as we breathe in, we are breathing in the oxygen given to us from the plants of the planet. Our simple act of breathing is a reminder of the oneness we share with the planet. And let's just give a little gratitude for our beautiful planet, the loving sentience that Gaia has for us, for you. Gaia knows you. And Gaia is thanking you. Your breath also gives life to her. So whenever you say, "Thank you, Gaia," I want you to hear the words, "Thank you, your name goes here," coming back from the planet. And you may now relax your hands onto your lap. And in this attitude of gratitude, let us receive the messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I would like to start a series of 3. This week and the next 2 will present a theme. We're going to call it Rewriting